Bibi Lynch, thank you so much for joining me and a huge welcome to Thrive Solo. As I just said before we hit record, I'm so excited to talk to you. I've been wanting to talk to you for ages. But before we get into our conversation, can you just tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name's Bibi. I'm almost 5'1", Pisces, Virgo rising.
I love it.
I'm a journalist, a writer, a broadcaster, and a host. And I've been doing this for a long, long time, but I'm still weirdly excited by it all. I know we're going to get into this in a minute, but I feel on top of my game.
Absolutely.
Is that a
Well,
good thing? Is that a
it's
delusional thing or
no, no.
delulu, you should say?
I think it's awesome, and I personally I am completely fucking Delulu, and I think that's a good thing. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I think you have to be. I think if you want to kind of create your best life, you have to be slightly delusional.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying you are, and
No,
actually
no, I
we
am.
will. Well, that makes two
Totally.
of us. That makes two of us. Well, firstly, thanks for the intro. Before we get into all of things single child free and being completely delulu, as we both are,
Mm.
I have to mention the fact that we have a few connections in common. And the first time I came across you was on the fabulous Joe Goods show. And ever since I was with you on that, I mean, that I think that must have been at least a year ago. And in fact, I thought to myself afterwards, shit, I've got to get Bibi on the podcast. And then I asked the producer for your email, and then I didn't get around to emailing. And then I had the wonderful Naomi Holbrook on the podcast a few weeks
Oh,
ago, and she was like, "Oh my God, you need to meet this person, Bibi Lynch." And I was like, "Yes, I know. I've got to email her. I've got her email address." And then I found out subsequently that you know my sister. So, which is just how
it's
random is
insane,
that?
isn't it? So Naomi, actually, after I chat with you today, I'm meeting Naomi for a decaf.
Are you?
Totally, totally kind of obviously planned, but not intentionally after seeing you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Joe, I mean, Joe, we've got in our lives. Joe is just incredible, and I've known
Yeah.
Joe for a million years. That's Joe Good, Middle Age Minx, and BBC
Yeah.
Radio. Well, not just BBC Radio London, national now, Late Night Joe, isn't it?
And
She's
this morning, she does a
and
lot of
this
this morning.
morning, I
She's a
know.
legend.
She is a legend. And Naomi, the unconventional weight loss coach, is just such a brilliant woman and really so supportive. I love her. She's really, I listened to your this morning when I wasn't washing my hair. If you're watching this on YouTube, I do apologize. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can say.
No.
Um, I was listening to a previous episode and it was with content creator Camille from Miami.
Oh yeah, Camille Natalie.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things she was saying I thought was really interesting, and I disagree with it actually, was finding it harder to make friends as you get older. I don't find that. So Naomi's a new friend and she's a solid friend
Wow. Well,
already. Yeah, I love that.
it's so interesting that you say that because I have had so many conversations recently, not least an interview that I did 2 days ago with somebody amazing, awesome single woman without kids called Angela Gentile. She's American. She lives in Boston. And so including the conversation I had with her for the podcast the other day, I've had so many conversations with single women who struggle with adult friendship.
Mm.
Now, I can relate on the one hand, but on the other hand, because of this podcast, I feel so lucky that I've met so many amazing women. But to speak a little bit more about that, Bibi, because again, it's something that I know single women struggle with, and adult friendships. I think a lot of people do find hard to cultivate and keep, or even find. And I think certainly many single women are looking for their tribe and finding it really hard because, of course, every single woman, sadly, isn't concentrated into the same place. So it sometimes feels like there are no other single women in the world, but actually there are, well, as we both know, more and more and more of them, but obviously dotted all around everywhere. But I'm interested to hear your take on that as it being something you haven't struggled with.
Mm. I think maybe I'm in a different situation because I write and talk a lot. So I'm public about being single, I'm public about being childless. And so my tribe's drawn to me. I'm really lucky.
Yeah.
So I haven't had the situation that maybe other single childless women have had, child-free women have had, who didn't know how to kind of go about. Because I guess, and another thing that's kind of against me, but also pro me, is I freelance. So I rarely work somewhere. So that would be a negative because that's how you meet people, isn't it? But because I am freelance, I work with so many different people and I interview so many different people that I actually meet people there. So I pick up people as I go. So I've been really lucky. That hasn't been an issue for me.
Yeah.
The quality of friendships is a different thing.
Yeah.
You know, you can meet people that, you know, you can be love bombed in friendships as well as in
Yes.
relationships. And that's happened to me. But like I said with Naomi, and also, yeah, I did meet your sister. I was just thinking, yeah, Annabelle, a million years ago, she's fantastic. Um, I'm from London, but I'm living in Hove at the moment, and I love London. London's my DNA, and she's my New York for Sex and the City. So I mean, she's my other character, and I just adore her. And if I went back now, I don't know how I would do that. But one of the reasons why I wouldn't want to go back is I'm in Hove, and I've got such a brilliant network down here, and these are
Really.
relatively new people, new friends, men and women, and they get me through. They get me by.
Yeah. And
But
actually,
also more important are my established friends that I've had for a long, long time. And I know we'll get onto this. I talk a lot. I'm sorry. This is all I do. I love to talk. You're the first person I've spoken to today, so unfortunately you're going to get it all. I
no, I
might
love
also
it.
tell you about my dream last night, which involved Paul McCartney in cracked heels, but we'll get onto that later.
Tell us
But
now. Tell us now.
I dreamt about Paul McCartney.
Did
I mean,
you?
and in the dream, I looked at my heels, and this is so graphic and so horrible. I've got quite nice feet. If any OnlyFans people are looking.
There's a
um,
little extra source of
this
income
is a
right
little
there.
extra. It's just a side hustle. My skin was coming off my feet, like, but really kind of big lumps and chunks of skin
Oh my God.
exposing raw heel
Oh my God. In front of Paul McCartney.
in front of Paul McCartney.
How fucking random. I wonder what that
I
means.
don't know. We'll examine that in a minute. But for me to go back to London would be tricky because I don't have an area in London where I have more than one or two people. Where even though I'm a Londoner, but down here I've got a lot of people, and so I have just been so lucky in terms of finding people. Naomi being one of them, who I think are solid friends, who are
Mm,
brilliant, supportive friends, who are in the same situation as me,
yeah.
and I'm so thankful for that because that is so precious.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And do you know what? I think in some ways, because I definitely feel the same way as you. And again, I think it's because I also connect with so many different people so regularly, which I feel so grateful for. And like I said just now, I've met so many amazing women through doing this podcast. Honestly, I feel so lucky. But I think one really interesting thing about adult friendship and one of the kind of benefits of it, even though it does have its challenges, I think when you connect with someone in later life, you connect because you are exactly who you are. Like, when we're younger, it's like you go to university, so you end up with the people that you're kind of thrown together in halls with. If you have kids, then you tend to, make friends with other mums. But I think when you make friendships later in life, it tends to be much more kind of in alignment with who you truly are. And I mean, Naomi is a very good example of this because I mean, I've only known the girl for like a few weeks, but I already feel like, she's already been she came into my membership to do a live call and we totally, totally hit it off.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful.
Wow.
One thing I think is so true is that there are so many awesome women. Women are just fucking awesome. And I want to talk to you about a term that like an acronym that you came up with, WHIP.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to go into your single life, obviously, but you came up with this term WHIP, and I'm really interested to talk about it because it stands for women who are hot, intelligent, and in their prime. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about off the back of this is sort of aging and embracing aging because you mentioned at the beginning of this that you felt like on top of your game at the moment. And you and I are both women of a certain age, and I feel exactly the same. I'm
Mm,
going to be 50 in January, and I feel like I'm just getting freaking started.
yeah.
Tell me about this term whip.
So I was commissioned by brilliant Kate Busman, and this was at the Telegraph, to write a piece about, because once I hit my 50s, I mean, to be honest, it was happening a little bit before that, but when I hit my 50s, it was noticeable. Younger men were attracted to me. Right? So I was like, brilliant. And we were talking about it, and I said, well, we should write about this. And Kate was like, yeah, yeah. And then she said, but I really hate the term cougar. And I'd never really kind of thought about it either way, but when you think about it, it is predatory, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it makes it sound like the men are prey, or
Yeah.
whoever you're interested in is prey. So I came up with whips, women who are hot, intelligent in their prime, and I loved it. And I wrote this piece, and the piece was a really successful piece, which was lovely. And then I did a BBC series on it, a BBC Radio Sussex and Surrey series on it, where I interviewed Jo, I interviewed Kate Moss, the author, I interviewed Danielle Denise, the chatelaine at Glyndebourne, I interviewed Sophie Ellis-Bextor, Andrew McLean, really brilliant women who, yeah, top of their game. I mean, that what was so brilliant about it was there were set questions, and I felt like I don't know, I was like, am I going to get the same kind of answer all the time? But of course I didn't. But one of the answers was, one of the questions was, do you see getting older as a blessing or a curse? And to a woman, they were saying a blessing. Whereas at that point, I wasn't necessarily believing that.
Okay.
And they convinced me. And it was really quite moving, actually. I loved it. I loved doing that series. Let's bring it back, please.
Well, I love this conversation because, and in fact, one thing before we talk about, going a bit more into about whether aging is a blessing or a curse, but I just want to pick up on, the fact that at that point when you wrote about whips, how you found there were lots of younger men who were attracted to you. And have you ever heard of Cindy Gallop?
Yeah.
Oh my God, she's so I've had her on the podcast. So
Yeah.
awesome. And,
I know her
another,
niece. How
sorry,
weird. I'm
say
friends
again.
with her niece.
Really?
Yeah. Her niece Maya mentioned because India. I went, oh my God, she's my auntie. I went, stop it. She's amazing.
Oh my God, that's so crazy. Well, I mean, Cindy obviously talks a lot about, she has a lot of relationships. I mean, loosely relationships because she is essentially single, solo, whatever you want to call it. And what I loved about talking to her about this is that basically it actually, when you think about it, although we're all so used to thinking, well, men go for younger women and all the rest of it, I actually think that older women are so underrated because ultimately confidence is attractive. And it doesn't matter what fucking age you are. And I talk about this on the podcast. I've talked about it in my membership because I think as women, there is a tendency for us to worry as we get older that we're not going to be attractive to men anymore. And I always say, do you know what? It's not about looks, it's about energy. And this is one thing that just struck me so much about Cindy is that she's just got such a kind of sense of inner confidence. It's not surprising that younger men are attracted to her because that is sexy, right? That confidence of an older woman.
Yeah. I used to write for magazines and I would write features about how the sexiest thing is confidence, not believing it as I was writing it. Sorry, readers, because I was young and full of
You weren't
insecurity.
there yet.
Yeah, I wasn't there yet. And now I'm here. I'm like, yeah, no, that is, I knew what I was talking about inadvertently. And it's true. No one cares about, any physical. I mean, I talk about being young and firm all the time. It's like a favorite line of mine. When I was young and firm, I'd do this and I'd do that. And yeah, it looks great, but I was racked with doubt and insecurities and not feeling happy about anything. And I would like to have my brain and soul now with my body then,
Oh my
right?
God. Yeah.
That would be perfect, but that doesn't happen. And the only person who's comparing my body is me.
100%. 100%. This leads nicely into this conversation of aging because like you say, yes, it would be wonderful to have, I'd love to have my 25-year-old body now with my brain and my soul now and the experience of, nearly 50 years on the planet. But let's talk about this and this question of, are you sort of dreading aging or embracing it? Now, I get quite frustrated when I hear constantly women talking about, oh my God, I'm going to be 40 or I'm going to be 50 or whatever it is, because I really think that this is something we need to embrace because the truth is that the alternative of aging is we're fucking dead. So
Yeah.
let's just stop doing this. And also, I think by women constantly having this conversation about dreading aging and desperately trying to keep young and look young and all the rest of it, we're reinforcing this narrative around aging. And one thing that just doesn't get spoken about are the multitude of benefits that come along with aging. And also, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this idea that, there's this kind of narrative, isn't there, that women get invisible or irrelevant as they get older. Can you speak to this, Bibi?
I totally disagree. Again, I know I'm in a lucky position. Well, not lucky, I've worked really hard for it, but, I'm in a position where I have platforms. So I don't feel irrelevant. And I actually hope that I've changed the narrative on some things, especially the childlessness stuff. So I feel totally relevant,
Me
and
too.
I feel totally visible. Like I said, I feel on top of my game work wise in sense of everything I do now. nothing is wasted. I think nothing is wasted, especially with work and relationships. Not so sure, but I mean, there's always a lesson, I guess, and not invariably not a sometimes not a pleasant one. But with work, I've worked as a receptionist there, and that means I've learned how to deal with this. I've done this. I've done, so everything. So everything I do now is using my writing. I've done comedy. I was a singer. I've done, lots of performance stuff. I'm bringing it all together now, and like you say, you don't have that experience until you have that experience, and I'm bringing that all in, and that makes women relevant because we've all got experience just by having been alive, and we're using it. I feel totally visible. Do you remember that Marilyn Monroe quote? I'm going to misquote Marilyn Monroe, but there was something that she would say, that she could walk down the road and not be looked at, and she could walk down the road as Marilyn Monroe, and then suddenly everyone's looking at her. And I think that's an attitude thing. So when I hear women saying they don't feel visible, I feel like they're creating that a little bit. I don't want to diss anyone, but I feel like if that's what you're bringing to the table, that's what you'll get. You'll get crumbs from the table if that's what you're bringing. What was the thing you asked earlier? The first thing you said about this section, because that was really, my brain went. This is. Oh, I know what I was going to say. This is the only thing about getting older. My fucking brain. But I'm nearly 60, and it's really, my thing about getting older is, it's the big birthdays make me gulp. So 30 I didn't give a shit about, 40 I didn't give a shit about, 50 I did give a shit about. And I know I'm allowed to swear because I heard you swear in a
Oh my God, you're totally allowed to swear.
That's my girl. So and 60 is going to take a lot of psyching myself up for. And I'm going to be 60 in March. So it's nearly September. I've nearly got 6 months to kind of get my brain into gear about it. And then what my brain does is has the fear, as it did at about 50, and then my brain will go, yeah, but look, I don't feel that. I don't think I look that. I think we all look and feel younger now. We're going to live longer if we're lucky. And I don't want to bring this down, but my mum died when she was 40.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And so I'm like, I'm fucking thrilled that I've got all this. I'm thrilled that I've got time, and doing it in a way and keeping relevant. And I hate to sound like insta positivity, toxic thing, but it is a gift.
Yeah.
And like you said, the option is you're not alive.
Yeah.
And so it's up to us to change the narrative about what. And here's the thing as well. And again, if I could say any more cliches, please do let me. Age is a number.
Yeah.
It really is a number.
Yeah.
And I know 30-year-olds who I feel like have given up.
Yeah, completely.
And I know 70-year-olds who have got such vibrancy and such vim and vigor, and they're inspiring.
Yeah, totally. I love this conversation. Do you know, I was with my niece yesterday. We were walking, doing a beautiful walk along the Dorset coast path, and she was telling, so she's just been in South America, and she was in Colombia, and she was talking about how she'd met this couple, a Dutch couple who were, I think she said they were 78, who were traveling around Colombia and, doing this, that, and the other, living an amazing life. I think so much of aging is in the way that you perceive it, the way that you frame it, the way that you choose to look at it. Because I've talked about this on the podcast. When I kind of blew my life up and quit my 9 to 5 and decided to take back control, and funnily enough, speaking of my sister, I decided to be my sister's cleaner for 2 years and work in a coffee shop part-time round the corner from my flat in London. And I was working with a girl who was a few years younger than me. So I was like early, mid-40s at the time. So she had kids. She wasn't married, but she had, we also had very different lives. But she would talk about her age and the fact that she was like, now, she used to say things like, oh, well, now that I'm 40, this. And she used to kind of bend over and pick something up and go, oh God, my knee. And then, well, now that I'm 40, it's all downhill from here. And I used to say to her, can you not say that? Like, it really is so much about how you feel about yourself, how you feel about life. And again, you can have people in their 40s or 50s who look and feel really old. And then you can have people in their 70s and 80s who are fucking rocking their life and traveling in Colombia and doing God knows what. And actually coming back to the kind of this narrative around women of a certain age being irrelevant or invisible. I personally think, and you alluded to this when you were talking about women who sort of, the way that they feel about themselves, that is ultimately what it's about, right? It's about how you feel about yourself, because, you're nearly 60, I'm nearly 50. I don't feel irrelevant or invisible. In fact, I feel more relevant and more visible than I ever have in my entire life up till this point. So I think it really is about how you're feeling inside. And actually, if anything, I think the older we get, it's so important. And I'd love to get your thoughts about this. I think it's really important to have some kind of direction or purpose in our lives as we age. Because if we feel invisible and irrelevant, I think it's largely down to that more
Yeah.
than the way that the world is seeing us, you know?
Totally. I mean, I don't want to criticize anyone who does feel bad about aging because I understand the patriarchal take behind that, but we have agency, and
Yeah.
our agency and our responsibility is towards ourselves to say, fuck that. And if that's coloured our perception of ourselves throughout our lives, well, it stops now. And actually, I'm this and I'm this and I'm this. And also, a reason that we are still relevant now, this is the best time to be nearly 50 and to be nearly 60 in the history of the world,
Yeah.
because I think social media is a great leveler. It keeps you relevant as well. I don't think it cares about age. I think it cares about brains and souls and personality and take and humor and all the great stuff, intellect. It doesn't matter about an art. I don't think it cares about age. I think if you're hooked on that, you're choosing to see that. And I think that's kind of not the great thing. I think this pod's about being single and childless, child free. I think not having that linear life gives one the energy to find the relevance as well, because you've kind of had to. You haven't been given a role. It's the road less traveled, isn't it? You haven't been given the kind of purpose that's kind of put on you as a partner, as a mother, as whatever it is. You're just kind of on your own. So you've had to make that. And that's, I don't think I've ever really thought about this until we're talking about this now, but that's actually a big fat bonus, isn't it? That's like
Totally.
an amazing thing.
100%. This is one of the things that I talk about all the time, is the fact that being single and not having kids gives us these huge opportunities. And it gives us a potential, it gives us the time and space to explore the things that are really meaningful to us. Because, like you say, we haven't gone down that traditional path and had those, wife, mother roles put on us, or we've taken them on. Now, speaking of which, I really want to talk about you not having kids and that whole story, because I know you have a lot to say about that, and I can't wait to hear about it. But first of all, I just want to ask you about like the double whammy, shall we call it, of being both single and child free. And I know that you're kind of long term single, and you've written about this, you've talked about this. Speak to me about this. Where are you at in terms of being single?
See, I feel like I'm a bit of a fraud because I've got 5 children and a husband. I'm joking.
Nearly gave me a heart
I mean,
attack.
who knew? I kept them quiet. Um, I've been single my entire life. I had one boyfriend, and he was so absolutely brilliant and gorgeous and lovely, but we weren't a fit. And that was when I was 27, so I was 31. And I kind of always say, as a joke, but it's the truth, my last relationship ended the day after Diana died. So that's 1997. So I've been single since 1997. I've had flings, I've had one night stands, I've had 3 month collapses. I've had these things, but I haven't had a full on proper relationship, except with my family and my friends, of course. And it's an interesting thing. Tie that in with being childless, and I am childless as opposed to child free. I haven't felt liberated by not having children. I've felt imprisoned by it sometimes, not now, so I've never described myself as child free, but I understand the difference. Um, again, I'm talking about agency. What the world puts on people that are both those things, I think, is fucking appalling. And the agency is to kind of change your perception of it, or not change your perception, just change it. I think when you are single and childless, you mean fuck all in society. And it's a bigotry that is one of the few remaining allowed ones.
Yes,
If I may go into a couple of examples,
please
the
do.
thing that fucking I spend a lot of one of the hardest things about me being childless is it's been hard for me to grieve being childless.
Mm,
A, because it's disenfranchised grief, as Jodie Day from Gateway Women so brilliantly says.
yeah.
Gateway Women, a brilliant support network for childless not by choice. It's disenfranchised, so it's not recognised. And also there's this bigotry. So I spend a lot of my time railing against the injustice as opposed to just sitting there in it and going, okay, I feel blue, I feel sad, I feel bereft, I'm mourning. Haven't had that space to do that. I have now, but for a long time I hadn't had that space to mourn and grieve because I was battling the injustice.
Mm.
Hardworking families. So coming up to an election, even the other day on the telly, was an MP was talking about it. talking about hardworking families, and we're doing this for the hardworking families. Labour pitched themselves for a few months as the party of the family. Families are affected by cost of living crisis. Well, here's some fucking groundbreaking news, mate. Everyone needs food. Everyone needs a home. Everyone needs heat. Everyone is affected by everything. And Tangham Debonair, the ex-Labour MP, did a really powerful speech in the House, and it was filmed. It was when Twitter wasn't the cesspit that it is now, RIP Twitter. And she posted some coverage of her talking in the House and talking about, how people are affected by what's going on across the board. She kept saying families.
Right.
So I tweeted her publicly and said, I hope this isn't, I hope you reply. Everyone's affected by this, not just families, the childless and child-free, the single people, we count as well. And she replied, and she said, oh, thank you for the reminder. It's a time thing. I just didn't have time to mention everyone. And I was like, Jesus Christ, talk about miss the point. So I went back and said, well, if you use the word people, it's less syllables. And, oh my God, it's going to blow your mind. It covers everyone.
Humans,
it covers everyone. The hardworking families thing, they wouldn't pinpoint a minority or a majority, rather, over a minority so blatantly. They would never say hardworking whites.
Yeah.
They wouldn't say this policy is for hardworking straights.
So true.
And the kind of people that are going to respond to the rhetoric of hardworking families are the kind of people that you'd imagine that they want to appeal to, who they think won't vote for them if they don't use that word. And so, i.e., maybe would kind of be more inclined to vote if it was not hardworking straights. It's genuinely, I find it mind-blowing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
And there was, again, the whole disenfranchised thing and where you stand in society. As a mother,
Yeah.
and Lorraine talking about Gaza, as a mother and as a granny, I find it horrendous. Oh, well, do you know, it's really funny because I'm neither of those things. I think it's the best thing that's ever fucking happened to me.
Fuck me. It's so fucking insulting, isn't it?
Alan Kurdi, the Syrian toddler that was drowned in the Mediterranean, Victoria Derbyshire opened her TV show. They were having an exclusive interview with the aunt of Alan Kurdi. And the interview started with, if you're a parent, you might find this upsetting.
Oh my God.
Well, for me, the non-parent me, I put up bunting. How does that get past a producer? How does that get past the presenter?
Yeah.
And it's not just MPs that were saying, you're like, okay, it's a cheap emotive dig, but they're trying to get that vote. So you can kind of understand it. But when journalists say it, when the media says it, that means it's just so ingrained that you don't actually mean anything if you're not a parent or a partner. You're not in a family unit in whatever way.
And
I'm going to give you one more example.
Yeah, no, please do.
I'm on coke and I'm not on coke, but this makes me so angry.
I love it.
Mariella Frostrup did an advice column a couple of years ago, and a woman had sent her this really heartfelt letter just saying, I'm middle-aged now and I regret not having children and I feel so sad about it and I don't have this, I don't have that, and I don't really know what to do. And Mariella Frostrup suggested that she goes to her GP to get some antidepressants, suggested she watches Mariella Frostrup's own documentary about menopause, and then said, why don't you make a list of everything you've got and then maybe go on a cruise with your toy boy with the money that you didn't spend on having a child. So I obviously wrote a feature about it and replied, Dear Mariella, me hearing that would be like me saying to you, and I'm not wishing this on anyone, of course, this is me giving an example.
Making a point.
It would be like saying, if your child died, I'm sorry your kid's dead, but come on, look on the bright side. You've got a spare room now that you don't need to use as their nursery. You can use that for the office you always wanted, or that gym. And there's no money for their university fees. Now you can spend, go on a holiday. It's when I say it, it sounds so extreme, but that's what they're saying.
Exactly. It's so true.
Does that annoy you?
It 100%. 100.
You're child free, aren't you?
Well, I consider myself child free. However, I always assumed that I'd have a baby. I didn't make a decision to not have kids. And actually, I did my own fair share of grieving pretty quietly for several years. And I still to this day, my listeners know this, I still to this day have moments where I get really broody. Because I was never one of these women who was driven by having a baby. It always kind of was driven much more by what I wanted to do with my life. But in the back of my mind, I assumed that I would get married and have kids eventually, because that's what everyone does. But when I talk about my own grief of not having kids, I do always point out the fact that I think my grief was very different to, perhaps your grief. which we'll come on to because I want to hear all about this. But, those women who wanted a baby so bad that, they really did struggle with the grief of it. Whereas mine was much more, I sort of talk about it like I kind of silently grieved, and I think other women have had it a lot worse. So although I am child free, I never sat down and made like I wouldn't describe myself as child free by choice because
Yeah.
I never sat down and made a decision to not have kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to what you were saying about, particularly just picking up on what you said about when people say things like, for the mothers among you, you might find this upsetting, and all this kind of bullshit. It's so fucking insulting. But actually, I think it speaks to the fact that the traditional roles for women in society and men are, this narrative is so deeply ingrained that it's almost as if people don't even realize they're doing it, because
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? It's like it's so tightly woven into the fabric of society.
I
That's not
do.
to say that it's right and we
Yeah.
need to change it, but I think it's sometimes down to that people just don't think
I
about the way
think
that they're saying things.
I think you're right. I've got lots to say about this. So first of all, there's no hierarchy of grief, of course. But when you were saying about, maybe it's been hard for childless people. I think in terms of the way we're seen, if you're single and childless, and not seen as mattering or factoring in any way in society, that is on top of grief. On top of like real. I mean, yours is grief as well. But do you know what I mean? It's like to have that. It's like shitty icing on an already rancid cake, isn't it? You've got the whatever you feel about not having children, and then on top of that, you mean fuck all. Um, it drives me insane. I mean, I think you're right. It's deeply ingrained, but that doesn't, as you also say, that doesn't mean that it's correct and it shouldn't exist. And I think there's a difference. I think there are still people, sadly, I think, who believe that, because I think people like me and like Jodie Day, World Childless Week, Story House Childless, all these like great institutions that are around the childless, child-free experience have said it enough. I've been writing about this stuff for 15 years now,
Yeah.
and it's been said enough and loudly enough and articulately enough to be heard.
Yeah.
And if you're still not hearing the words, because yes, it could be deep ingrained, you may never have thought about that, but if you are then told about that and you're choosing not to listen and not to hear and not to act on what you're hearing, then this is your choice. You're
Yeah.
choosing to be a bigoted piece of shit. You'll be unsurprised to hear I've had lots of therapy. So I had a therapist who I loved, but she said to me once, I mean, it could be worse. You could have had a child that had died.
God, that's
And it,
just so
it's so
blind.
awful. It's so awful.
Yeah, a
And
therapist saying that too.
yeah,
What
yeah,
did you say to her? Did you dump her right there on the spot, I hope?
I did.
Did you?
I did. I did. After, I mean, I did the session, and then I
Because it takes away that's the problem with this, like Jodie, as you say, Jodie, the brilliant Jodie today, who I've had on the podcast, and she talks about this disenfranchised grief. It's this idea that because you didn't act, it's like your grief isn't real.
It's not real.
Yeah. Because, well, how can you grieve something that you never had? And it's
And
it's
even
that
earlier,
that's frustrating.
when you said, and again, I totally hear what you're saying. We can maybe do more as childless, child-free, single, because we've got time. But it's the quality at time, because I feel like I'm non-stop, and a lot of that non-stop is not happy non-stop. Because I'm on my own, there's a single penalty, of course, of almost £15,000 a year just to live as a single person. So I do know people that are, and this isn't slagging at parents or people that are coupled up or anything, who have much more time than I do, have much more available time, because I'm hustling, I'm working the whole time, you
Mm.
know. But the thing about people not hearing, so yeah, my therapist, I then decided to get a therapist who was a woman and childless, because I just thought, okay, shortcut, I wouldn't have to kind of deal with that stuff. And there's a therapy kind of group down here, and I had a little assessment, and a man assessed me, and he's got children, and I loved him. I just thought he was so brilliant. And so then I said, okay, I would like you to be my therapist, and that was agreed. And what is so special about him is he'll watch something and he'll come, and then we have a session. He'll say, I thought about you. I heard someone say, as a mother, I heard this. He hears, so he's choosing to hear it, and it's changed how he's thought about it. One of my best friends, Shelley, her daughter Ella, beautiful daughter Ella, came to visit me and was talking about something. She said, oh, someone said, as a mother, and I pulled them up on it. I said, did you? Oh my God, why? And she went, because of you, because of what you
Oh,
say, which A was one of, just incredibly moving
Yeah.
and just beautiful. But also, people can hear it.
Yeah.
And also, in a time when we are brilliantly, hopefully, trying to be more open to every kind of person, every kind of existence, and every kind of being, and every kind of love, and every kind of everything. It's still, if you didn't have children and you're not in any kind of family unit, and even being just with a partner as a family unit, you
Mm.
don't count.
Yeah. It is, it still is that one
Yeah,
thing that it's still acceptable to talk about single, and it's particularly women, single women without kids. Whereas you mentioned earlier were like, they wouldn't have said white family units.
yeah,
Like for some reason, the stigma around women, particularly who are single and who don't have kids, or who are not single but who don't have kids, it seems to be the one area that is still, and no matter, and like you so rightly said, there are so many more conversations about this, so it's not like people haven't had this brought to the forefront. People
yeah,
know these conversations are happening. There's more books, there's more articles, there's more
yeah,
podcasts, there's more pieces. It's fucking out there.
yeah.
And you won't know this, but I did a piece for the Telegraph, which I was interviewed. This was just after my book came out back in June, and I was interviewed by the Telegraph. But I didn't write the piece, but they wrote it as a first-person piece, and it was a very provocative headline about the fact that I hadn't had sex for 5 years. And basically, the piece was about, how I'm very happily single and child-free. And I had so much vitriol online, particularly from men, actually, although a lot of women too, but so much vitriol. The lady doth protest too much. Well, you're kidding yourself, but you're not kidding anyone else. And what a meaningless lie. Like, you should have seen it, Bibi. It
Yeah.
was unbelievable. It went so viral. There were over 1,300 comments on the online piece. It went so viral that they actually put me on the fucking front page of the Telegraph 3 days later. The Facebook piece had more than 6,000 comments on the Facebook post. It was insane. And what I want to ask you about is, because I know you've obviously written a lot about being childless. What is it about writing about this that triggers other people?
I know what it is, miss.
Go on.
Put my hand up to answer a question. I know what it is. I think I know what it is. Um, Jodie Day is the first person who I heard use the word pronatalism. I hadn't heard it until then, and that means kind of worshipping at the altar of parenthood, especially motherhood. Um, and the first piece I wrote a piece for Grazia about, am I going to miss the baby train? I think they called it, or the baby boat or something like that. But that was when I didn't know if I wasn't going to have children. And then I'll tell you that story in a second. But I didn't have children. And when I was 2012, I wrote a piece for The Guardian, and they gave it, again, a provocative headline. The headline was "Mothers Stop Moaning." Imagine the fucking.
Oh my
I know.
God.
It was such a huge piece, like international, and it was so big. It sounds like the same with your Telegraph piece. They did a feature about the feedback and the kind of fallout a few weeks after, which I bought. I bought the hard copy, and I never had the courage to read it,
Oh
and I've
God.
never had the courage to look online because they're talking about my grief.
Yeah.
They're talking. There's not talking about something about me talking about my shoe size. It's my grief.
Mm,
But I think if you shine a light on someone's situation and their happiness or not they're in,
mm,
people get defensive and angry.
yeah.
And just by talking about my life, and with pronatalism, it serves no one. It's, if you wanted children, you feel like you've never had that love. You're told constantly at any episode of EastEnders, yeah, but I'm a mum now. I know. Fuck off, Stacey. It's like, fuck off, sweetheart. Um, you're told that you haven't experienced anything, like your life's not worth living. You will never have love like it. And if you're a parent and you've also been told that, but you don't feel that, or you're kind of bogged down by the stuff that you don't like about the responsibility in your life of being a parent,
Mm,
you're angry about it. You've been missold something. So the person it's easier to have a fucking go at is the person that's going, you're lucky.
yeah.
And here's the PS. The piece didn't say, shut up, you're moaning. It just said, please see what you've got. Please see what you've got, because I don't have that.
Yeah.
And I would love to have that. So I never saw it as an attack. I saw it as a heartfelt,
Just being honest about your feelings
just
and your
being honest about
experience.
my feelings. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Do
here's
you?
something really interesting about this I think you'll find fascinating. I was saying earlier that I think the world hopefully is becoming, I mean, from London, I'm in London all the time and I live in Hove, so I guess I'm lucky enough to be in two places that are very broad-minded. So to me, you know, the thought that the world would be getting smaller mentally is a weird thing, but it is. So when in 2012 I wrote this feature, and it was bought by an education board and it was used as an AS level paper. I never
Wow.
knew how, yeah, and I never knew
Wow.
how, it's amazing, isn't it? But I don't know how they framed it. Maybe this was the worst bit of writing you'll ever see. Who knows? Anyway, so it was bought by this AS board, this education board, used as AS level, and was international. And I never that was it. That was it. I never heard anything else about it until about 3 or 4 years ago, when I started getting hate mail and hate emails from the students that were studying my feature.
Stop it.
No,
You are shitting me.
it's lucky you didn't have children because you're a bitch.
What
You're
the
a fuck.
fuck?
Yeah, and it's because the world's gone more right wing and more traditional, and they're seeing it more. And they were like, I mean, it was.
Even young people, that's so disturbing.
That's what freaked me out. And one was a school in Italy, and I got in touch with the school. Actually, I'll tell you what happened. This kid sent me this grief. Got my website email, which is different to my personal email, but got my website email, and then messaged me on Insta, and then did public stuff on Insta about me slagging me off. So I replied on Insta. Then this kid went to Insta and said I was bullying them,
Oh my
got me
God.
blocked on Insta. And of course, I rang Insta and got it unblocked within minutes. And then I got in touch with this kid's school and just said, can you see what this child's doing? And the head didn't apologize and just told me this was a young child expressing themselves.
Oh
So this,
my.
unfortunately, is allowed. This is the world going more and more right wing, getting less and less inclusive. And it's fucking terrifying.
It is deeply, deeply disturbing. Didn't you once get called a misogynist for something
Oh,
that a
yeah, I
piece
got
you wrote
called a
about?
misogynist by quite a well-known columnist. She said that I was a misogynist. She said I had a very powerful voice, which I thought was very kind of her.
I'll take that.
Thanks, cheers, mate. Very powerful voice, and I'm influencing people. And what I'm saying is anti-women because I'm not allowing mothers their voice. And she said, there's a word for that, and it's misogynist. And I
Oh
said,
my.
what's the word for someone that doesn't allow every woman their voice? And then she blocked me.
Oh, this is just I just I find this unfathomable because why is it okay? It's like saying to all the couples with all the couples with kids in the world who talk about their situation all the time and the government policies and the this and the fact that we live in a society that literally is built for couples. When someone talks about being childless, that's not okay. It's literally inside, and to be called a misogynist for writing that, it blows my fucking mind.
Yeah. It's seen as a threat. And it's
Right.
seen as a threat, I guess, it's seen as do they see it as a judgment on the decision they've made?
Well, I wonder, and it's going back to the responses for pieces that you've done and my piece in the Telegraph. It clearly, and this is a whole other conversation, which I'd love to get your take on as well. It clearly, I think it triggers something in people who have gone down the traditional route of getting married and having kids because, quote, that's what you do. And they've realized that it isn't the fairy tale that they've been sold.
Yeah.
So I think it triggers quite a lot of anger in people who are perhaps not happy in their own lives.
That's exactly that, shining a light on it
Right.
inadvertently. And what can they do? They can't give the kids back. They
Exactly.
can't rail. They can't do this. They can't be seen to not be
Yeah.
enjoying the life that they've told is the best life you could possibly have.
Because ultimately, if you're happy, if you're truly happy with your married life with children, you do not feel the need to intentionally go online, say that you think an article is a pointless waste of time, as many people did with mine, and actually, this was the irony. There were comments, and I'm sure you can relate to this. There were comments of like, "What is this crap? I don't pay my subscription to read this crap." Yet somehow here you are in the comments, having read this crap
Yeah.
and actually bothering to write. If
Yeah.
you are happy in your life, you
Yeah.
don't feel the need to tear other people's
Yeah.
lives down. It's as simple
I,
as
I
that.
totally agree. There was it wasn't a response to something I've done, but there was a Daily Mail comment, and it was a bloke saying, if you don't have children, you can't put woman on your passport.
Oh my fucking God.
So that's the kind of shit where, people are dealing with. I will say something as well, though, because I wrote a piece for The Guardian again about men that haven't had children and the child's experience for men. And the kind of key point from that, I mean, it was really, really moving. The interviewees were brilliant. And what they were saying was that one of the reasons it's so hard is because there's no real narrative around men not having children. At least there is a little bit for women. There are louder voices. Women are allowed to say, conversely, because, it's like we're slammed more for not having children. I think it's not seen, we're a spinster, we're this, we're a crone, we're whatever.
A
But I think it's
crone.
very hard for men as well.
That word crone, it's just so horrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your own journey of moving through the grief of not having kids. Because, like you said, you really wanted kids, right?
Yeah. So it's a really weird thing. I'm the eldest of seven.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm the best one. So
Obviously.
thanks.
Just
I'm the
like
eldest.
Annabelle is.
That's what she says.
Well, she's the oldest.
Best. How is she?
She's really well. She's really well. She sends her love.
Yeah, please send my love back.
I will.
Yeah, so I'm the eldest of seven, and my mum and dad both came from really big families as well. So I always thought I'd have a child, but I never kind of actively went down the traditional route in terms of, like, I wasn't dating. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Mm.
I wasn't someone that dreamt of my wedding or anything like that. But I did always assume I'd have one child, and I always thought I'd have a kid, and I'd call the child Frankie, boy or girl. I love that name.
I love that
And
name too.
so I always just kind of thought it would happen. But I definitely was. See, I'm scared to say I was career focused, because I hate that hard nosed career bitch kind of trope as well. For me, I just, without going into the what, I found the thought of relationships terrifying. I found them very scary, and I didn't realize that was what was going on, but I did. So I never really pursued them. So that's why I just didn't have relationships. And then I met someone when I was 27, incredible man, with each other for 4 years, but like breaking up every 6 months. And then after that, like I say, one night stands, 3 month collapses, never really been anything. So it wasn't like I was actively thinking, okay, I'll get pregnant, I'll get pregnant, I'll get pregnant. I just thought it would happen. And also at that point, I was definitely in the realms of hearing about the miracle babies, and Halle Berry's had a baby at 50 or whatever. You know what I mean? So you were hearing all these stories that kept giving you hope.
Mm.
And then when I was 42, my dad died. And I think when someone dies, we kind of want to create, and it's a different career, create the life we wanted. And in my case, it was like, I felt like shit, I have to have the baby now.
Right.
So I went and had like all the tests and stuff, and because I was 42, I was fertile, but because I was 42, the odds were much lower because I was 42. So it was like, right, okay, get pregnant now. And I wasn't with anyone. So I just thought, okay, I will go down the IUI, the IVF route. Well, I mean, this is such a tragic story. This is so horrible. The recession hit, and journalism stopped paying, and I didn't have the money to do it. I also stupidly sold my flat that I owned because Dad was ill, and I had a neighbour that was harassing me, knocking on my door and throwing stuff at my windows and
My
buzzing
God.
buzzers in the flat at 3 a.m, calling me the C-bomb. And it
What?
was like, yeah, and police wouldn't do anything, council wouldn't do anything. So basically I was in this maelstrom of Dad having terminal cancer, being abused by a neighbour, and I stupidly thought, well, at the time it was the wise decision. Sell my flat, put the profit in the savings account. That's my deposit for my next place. Be with Dad while he's still alive. And it was almost like the next day the recession hit, and journalism stopped. You couldn't make money from journalism, and I was on my own. This is what I mean about, you maybe have less time, maybe have more time available when you are in a couple. And so I tried to do IUI, but I just didn't have the money to go private. No, NHS wouldn't do anything with me because I was 42.
Right.
So I didn't even have the chance to try to have children. And then I wasn't 42, So it was a bit of a triple whammy, really.
Yeah. And what was that like for you?
Absolutely, almost life-endingly depressing and
Really?
devastating. Yeah, hideous, because it was everything, And then you got, I had the grief of Dad. I was homeless. Oh my God, you're going to hate this podcast. I was then hidden home for 10 years.
Tell us about that.
Oh, fucking awful. I
Talk
mean,
about a fucking nightmare time for you.
yeah, yeah. And that's why your pod's called Thrive Solo. I'm like, okay, there aren't many people that could get through. I'm so proud of myself
Mm.
because there aren't many people that could get through that, I don't think.
So you had a lot to deal with as
A lot.
and as a single woman. So without the support of a partner, blah blah
Yeah,
blah.
yeah.
That's a
And you're
lot.
right. Yeah, totally. And work being what work was being, and yeah, trying to rent and not being able to rent. So I was hidden homeless for 10 years, and in that time I moved 30 times. And
Can you just, I'm fascinated to hear about this, Bibi, but can you just explain the term hidden
hidden
homeless?
homeless is when you're not on any stats or any figures. Because I was at that time, I guess I was told to flat when I was 42. Yeah, so I was too old to be given any help by any authorities,
Right.
mainly because I was single, no children, no dependents. So that's what I mean again about single and childless, you mean fuck all.
Mm.
And to quickly PS that, I had a friend recently tell me that it mattered more if she died because she had children than if I died.
Hang,
Ex-friend, sorry.
hang on. That literally what?
Yeah.
What was the context of that conversation?
Because she was flirting with a bloke and even though she was married, she was flirting with a bloke and he was saying how if he died it would be devastating because he's got children. And she said, yeah, it would matter more if I died and referred to me. I was there.
I literally cannot believe that. That is absolutely horrific.
Anyway, hidden homeless. Hidden homeless means you haven't been given social housing, you're not sleeping on the streets, but you're not included in any of the figures on homelessness because you're not recorded anywhere, but you
Right,
don't have a home.
right.
So for me, and invariably women are hidden homeless because I mean, being hidden homeless was so devastating and so I didn't have a home. I had nothing. You've got nothing to build on. I don't, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Mm,
and I didn't have the basic needs,
yeah, yeah.
and that was traumatizing and life changing. God knows what it's like being on the streets. God knows how awful that is because I could barely cope with what happened to me, and I had some friends support me. I had strangers support me. I had people that I'd met on Twitter let me sleep on their sofa for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I moved 30 times in 10 years, and in one 2-year period, I moved 12 times.
Oh my God. How
Yeah.
did you make your way out of that?
I left London.
Right.
I left the city I love, and someone had a place, asked me to house sit in Hove, and I did. And I had 3 months where I was solidly somewhere for 3 months in my own space, my own energy. Because when you're hidden homeless as well, if you're staying at someone's place, it's their place.
Mm,
It's not your life, it's
yeah.
their place, and you're a burden,
Yeah.
you know.
So incredibly hard. And dealing with the grief of not having kids at the same time. Like, may I ask, what do you think it was that enabled you to move through that grief and get to a point where you're, I know you can say you still think of yourself as childless rather than child free, but
Yeah.
you're obviously in a better place than you were then.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how you got through that? Because there will be a lot of women listening to this who aren't there yet.
Yeah. Makes me really emotional. I have such incredible friends.
Right.
It's, Helen, Shelley, Emma, Gemma, such incredible friends that looked after me and helped me and supported me. I went on antidepressants,
Right.
but I don't know that they worked because I don't know if it was depression. I think maybe it was trauma.
Okay.
Um, so I tried like the medical route like that. But honestly, the truth is, my first ever therapist said to me, she went, "You are tenacious. When it's like you have got a little flame inside you, like a little kind of gas boiler, and it just won't go out." And I think that's what it was.
Right.
And I guess we all have that.
Yeah. Just
Just
that ability
unfortunately,
to survive.
I had to access mine more, maybe,
Right.
than some
Right.
people.
So
But I think
ultimately,
it's survival, and also then finding somewhere. So after I house sat for my friend, I then found a place down here, and rents in Hove comedy. They're so expensive, but they're still not London level. Not
yeah.
far behind,
I
but
was
they're
going to
still
say, I
not
can
London
imagine
level.
they're still pretty steep though.
Yeah, yeah, they're pretty steep.
Yeah.
So I found somewhere and I was there for 3 years. And then where I am now, I've been here for 4 years. And it's just having that stability, even though I only rent, and that kills me because I owned.
Mm.
But because what happened was the money I put into a deposit account, I then had to live on
Yeah.
because there
Right.
was no money from journalism. So I think, you know what? As well, when I listened to your podcast, your episode with our content creator, and you were talking about what makes her thrive, and I think you were both talking about being in the present. And there is something about that. And again, I don't want to be that insta toxic positivity voice, but I'm going to quote Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga.
Go for it.
Nobody's promised tomorrow. We're
Right.
not promised tomorrow, and we just don't know. Because if I look at the future, and again, I don't mean to be depressing because life
No,
is
not
good,
at all.
because I've got some good stuff to say about life, but if we look at my future as it is now, I rent, I don't have a partner, I don't have anyone to look after me. So I don't know what my future is, and my future feels scary. I have
Does
no
it?
security. Yeah. But why maybe not look at the future, because there's fuck all I can do about that.
Yeah.
You know, apparently there's no inheritance coming. There's definitely no trust fund. Do you know what I mean? And I was talking to a friend the other day, Shelley, and I was really upset. And I was just saying, why is my life shit? And she said, your life isn't shit. She went, you don't have things in it that you thought you would have. She went, but you have a spectacular life and you are loved.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
And that kind of
It's
says it all.
reframing it. Reframing your life is life changing.
Yeah, it truly, truly is. I talk a lot about that on this podcast. And I've often talked on here about what success means. And, because I'm in a not dissimilar situation from you. You won't know this, but so basically, I have a flat in London that I've rented out because I couldn't afford to live in London anymore because this was about a year and a half ago. Long story short, I'd, blown my life up, quit the 9 to 5, become my sister's cleaner, got a job in a coffee shop. Then I got my book deal and I'd started the podcast and I have a membership for single women, but I was kind of scraping together money. And, a couple of years ago, I literally got to the point where I was like, I cannot afford to continue doing what I'm doing,
Yeah.
write this book, continue the podcast, continue the membership. So I had a choice. And the choice was either you go back to a 9 to 5 that you don't give a shit about and you hate and makes you miserable,
Yeah.
but you stay in your flat because you earn a like relatively okay salary, or you rent this flat out. And here I am living back in Dorset. Basically, my mum lives upstairs. I'm very lucky because I'm living downstairs at my mum's because she lives in a flat upstairs. It's a weird house. It used to be like a gallery and a workshop at the back. And so it's like a 2-bed flat upstairs and this kind of slightly like ramshackly downstairs flat where I'm living. My point is, speaking to what you were just saying about your situation, is that both you and I, yeah, we're single, we don't have kids, and we're, not living in our own homes per se. But I look at your life and I look at my life and I see so much wonderful stuff about both of those lives.
I,
I'm very happy with my life and myself and what I'm doing and how I feel on a daily basis. And I look at what you're doing, and to me, you are hugely successful. On paper, looking at the kind of tick boxes of life, neither of us are that
yeah.
kind of traditional definition of success. But I talk a lot about how do you define success, and the way that I define it is how do I feel? How do I feel most
Yeah.
days? Do I
I
feel
love,
joyful most days?
yeah. That's so key. So where I'm living now in Hove, I mean, I'm manifesting the hell out of stuff as well. And I think it's working. Stop it. But I think things are changing.
Love it.
Um, I am going to end up with my mum was raised in Covent Garden. Unbelievable.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that's where I was a lot when I was a kid. So I am going to get a place in Covent Garden and I'm going to get a place in Hove and I'm going to just and I'm going to love them more than anyone's ever loved a home before because I didn't have that for such a long time. And it's going to be joyful. In terms of my life, day to day, I live in a flat. My landlord is so gorgeous. I love him. He's such fun. He bought me a Bieber sarong that he saw because it reminded him of me, and
Oh,
it's like my colours that I love, like black and kind of gold and everything. He's so kind and so sweet. I
oh.
live opposite the sea. I've got this amazing network of people down here. My work is I'm loving my work. I'm about to start a production company. Yeah, I'm
Really?
starting up another podcast. I do
I was going
life
to ask
events.
you what's next for you. So tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Well, again, it's that whole thing of, it's I'm starting a podcast. See, oh, if I say the name, no, if I say the name, it's my ownership of it, right? No one,
100%,
yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to start a production company and all the content, and it will be, and you're going to be on it, you're going to be involved in this. It's going to
Oh,
be podcasts, it's going to be screenplays because I really want to write a screenplay. I want to write a kind of, I'm in my working title is Me Bag. It's going to be a flea bag about not having children. Me
bag.
bag.
Love it.
And the production company, all the content is going to be for people that didn't have linear lives. That
Wow.
means our allies, our friends will still love it and getting it, but the content is getting stories out there that haven't been out there. And I'm going to call the production company Thanks for Nothing Productions.
Oh my God, that is absolutely
It's
brilliant.
brilliant, isn't it?
That is,
I've got a podcast called No Baby Brain, which is
oh,
about the childless, child-free experience. There's going to be one about homelessness. But it's
When's the podcast starting?
secret. But I'm gonna.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
we're
it's in
getting
the
there. And
pipeline.
yeah, we're developing it. But I'm so excited, and I'm
Oh,
just
wow.
really. And these live events, it's like I'm bringing absolutely, like we said at the top of this chat, everything I've ever done is coming in, and the life experience, the lived experience, is maybe what makes everything you do and everything I do resonate and therefore more impactful
Yeah.
because it's true, it's real deal.
Yeah. And it brings so much meaning. And also, one thing I will say is that I get the impression that you're excited about your life.
And I get, yeah,
Yeah, and I feel the same way. And that again, speaking to that, what is success anyway? Well, the fact that we both feel excited about our lives at the ages of nearly 50 and nearly 60,
yeah.
I think that is pretty freaking major,
And I
actually.
think it's
Because how many people can say that?
not many, Benny. And also that whole thing of it's again, this sounds like showing off, and I don't want it to, but this was so profound to me. So the fact that my therapist now listens out to stuff, Ella, I think Ella's 25, 26, maybe a little bit older.
Your
Will
friend's
kind of,
daughter.
yeah, will kind of quote stuff that I've said, and I'm like, what? I'm around a lot of younger people, which I really love as well, and I love mentoring, a mentor as well, and I love all this stuff. So, and I feel like you and I will be changing conversations because of that. And I wrote a feature recently. I think it was about dating in your 50s, 60s, and which is ridiculous. And it was quote tweeted. And the woman that quote tweeted it said, "Oh, Bibi wrote a feature once that changed my life, and perhaps this will change yours too."
Yeah.
Someone said that about something I wrote.
Wow. Well, there you go.
There you go.
There you
And
go.
it's kind of
And
like,
that
so
is
there's
that
my
is
legacy.
right. And that is because you are speaking authentically about your experience of life in all its kind of messy, fucked up glory,
Yeah.
in the say, I mean, and that ultimately that speaks to human beings because what people want is not perfection. They want honesty and
Yeah.
they want authenticity. And that is what resonates with people, right? And that is why somebody said that about you.
It blew my mind. And my beautiful niece Ellie is getting married on Sunday. Exciting.
Oh,
And she's so incredible. And we were talking once, and she just said, "I think that you've had some sad things happen in your life, Shred, but you've also had this incredible life." And it's you know what we could do us for ourselves as the biggest favor for ourselves is almost kind of see us how other people see us.
right. Yeah.
Because it's invariably flattering and lovely and kind. And I'm thinking more about your question about how could people move from the grief to, it's a really hard thing because like you said, sometimes you see a child and it kind of stops you in your tracks a bit. It does with me sometimes. But I think it's just, maybe it's just time. Maybe time hasn't been missold on healing, and maybe it is the key. And reframing and seeing what you do have, not in a kind of go on a cruise with your toy boy way, because that's just reductive and insulting and hideous, but seeing what you've got and seeing what you have and letting yourself be valid despite not having those milestones. I think that's the thing. I think if we judge ourselves that way, no good comes from it. And even the people that hit those milestones, I mean, another way to remember to be excited and happy about not being married or with someone. I mean, I still would love to be with someone. I would honestly love that because I've never had that. And I would hate to go my whole life never having been in love and been loved
Mm.
back. I think that would be tragic. But there are not many relationship goals. I don't see many couples that I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. I mean,
Right.
I'm really strict about what I want.
Are you intentionally looking? Like, are you
I
intentionally
was. I
dating?
went on Bumble. Jesus Christ.
Did you? And
Well, here I am. Um, Again, the whole thing about younger men, older women, it's like they fetishize us. It's really odd. I mean, it's flattering, but it's really odd. And I get the one bloke messaged me, and his profile, it was a photo, and there was no way he was 43. It said his age was 43. There was no way he was. And then his bio just said, like him old.
oh my God.
So anyway, if you want his number, Lucy,
Isn't it fascinating? Do you know what? Well, I mean, I can't see any younger men lining up at my door. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
what am I doing
It's-
wrong? A beautiful woman like you. It's a really weird thing. And Bumble, it's again though. I mean, the love bombing, oh my God, the fuck boys, oh my God, the
Wow.
benching, oh my God, read my features to get all those definitions. It's like a whole new brutal world. And you have to kind of, and you said this in the podcast episode I listened to as well, you have to, if it fucks up, it's invariably a then thing.
Right.
But it's hard to get your head around that because naturally we kind of go, oh my God, I wasn't enough. I wasn't this. I was
Right.
this. I did this. Da, 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 da. You need to kind of move away from that because,
Are you finding it easier to, because I think that's one of the downfalls or one of the pitfalls. Certainly, I've had conversations about this with other women who are dating, is that awful thing of, if they ghost you or reject you or whatever, we have a tendency to think, oh my God, it's me. No,
yeah,
actually, you have to be able to move through it because otherwise, the internet dating is going to fucking kill you, isn't it? Because it's like you have to be able to understand that you cannot get your validation from some random guy on the internet who ends up ghosting you.
yeah,
If you are dependent on that
yeah.
for your self-worth, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Have you heard the word limerence?
I think I have, but I don't know. I don't know. I have heard the word, but I don't know why.
So limerence is huge on TikTok. I'm losing hours to TikTok at the moment because I'm kind of obsessed with TikTok tarot telling me about my life. Um, um, limerence is kind of you think you're in love with someone, you're obsessed with someone, but what you're doing is you're getting the dopamine hit of when they respond. You're getting the dopamine hit of the excitement. You're getting the dopamine hit from the confusion, and it's basically a trauma echo. If as a child you didn't get what you needed, you're kind of looking for that, and that makes you feel like that's love. That's not love. It's just that's really very unhealthy.
I think
But we
this might
get
have just explained my
there
relationships.
you go, sweetheart. But it's really interesting. But the good thing is, any research around anything like this is so helpful because it makes you see if you are attracting the same kind of people. Yes, that's you, but then you can look at why. You can address the you stuff. There are times when you have to own your behavior or your part in what's going on, but there are a lot of people out there that are playing a pretty mean-spirited game as
Yeah.
well. I
Yeah.
mean, still meeting someone IRL
The way
is
forward.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh. Bibi Lynch, I could honestly carry on chatting to you
Did
for.
I swear too much?
Are you joking? Have you heard me? I'm a complete potty mouth. I
Was
mean, no,
my
no, no. I always think if people don't like swearing, then they don't have to listen to this podcast. It's as simple as
was
that.
my
I have
hair
no
too greasy?
intention.
Did it put you off?
No, neither you or I've washed our hair today. So my hair looks just
I've
as,
got no makeup on either. I'm so sorry, everyone.
don't be daft. Most people will be actually listening to this anyway. So no worries. Now, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to say to the listeners of this podcast? They're largely single women, mostly childless, child-free, but some of them do actually have kids. But anything that you want to, any words of wisdom that you want to share just about your experience of life? No pressure.
Yeah, God. Um, well, I'd say keep listening to this brilliant podcast because it touches on such lovely subjects or such important subjects in a really, again, authentic way. So thank you, Lucy. It's brilliant.
You're,
Thank you for inviting me on.
you're so
Um,
welcome.
find your tribe, I
Right.
think. And your tribe can still be people with children. They can be your allies. Most of my friends have got kids, but it's their mindset is brilliant. Their mindset's open. They understand. They would listen. And again, I hate to sound like some toxic positivity Insta influencer or anything like that, because all our lives are valid, whatever route that takes, whatever path that is. And, we just have different paths, and that's what makes us interesting, and that's what makes us all unique. And never shut down to anything, I think, and feel the grief and know that that dissipates in some way. And there's ways to address it. And, love and luck, really.
Absolutely. Bibi, I genuinely think that you are completely wonderful. Like, I really, really, really do. Thank you for your time. How can people find you, follow you, all the rest of it? What do they need to know? Anything that you want people to know about?
Okay,
Now's
well,
your
thank
time.
you so much. I think you're wonderful as well. Thank you. I'm at Bibi Lynch on Instagram, and bbylynch.com is my website. I was on Twitter. I was Dame Bibi Lynch on Twitter, but let's never mention that again. Um, but please follow me because I'd really love you all to get involved in the next chapter of everything I'm doing. Because I think it's going to be fantastic. I'm genuinely psyched about it, and I'm thrilled about it, and I'd like you all to kind of be involved.
Well, I'm excited to see what you do next. So, and can I just say, by the way, completely randomly, but you might have the best name in the world. Like literally, Bibi Lynch. What? I'm so jealous. Like, I want your name.
Can I tell you the background to it quickly?
Yeah.
So my mum was called Bibi. So my background is Irish, Bangladeshi, Sri Lankan, Russian, Jewish.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Amazing.
You're so
And
exotic.
yeah, and mum was Bibi and dad obviously surname was Lynch. But so it's yeah, it's a good name, isn't it?
It is the coolest name. Thank you so much for your time, sending you so much love. And I sincerely hope that you and I will stay in touch.
Yeah, we will definitely. Take care, darling.
You too.